So this morning I want to talk about embracing inefficiency. I was sitting every morning, I sit and read for a little while and meditate a little bit and just do some thinking and framing how my day, how I want it to flow, and just thinking about some of the things that I've learned looking back as well as looking forward. And this morning I got a little bit frustrated because I was thinking about all the things I needed to do, the projects that I have stacked up, and I felt my stress level rise a little bit in thinking too far ahead. And then I remembered something that Brian Fretwell, who is a great coach here in town, and I recently went to one of his workshops, he was talking about, you're really only responsible for what's in front of you, and that's so true. And sometimes I get frustrated with, oh man, I know that there's a better way, and I'm one of those people, my personality is such that I just really want to find the most efficient way forward and do it and get it done. And one thing I've learned over the last couple of years, just in different areas, particularly in leadership, is that efficiency is overrated. And that's something that I've really been thinking about a lot over the past couple of years. And it came to my mind again, so I wanted to share it with you, especially for those of you who are just starting out, either as editors or in a different profession, getting to know a new industry, getting to know what works for you as you work through your day and accomplish goals for your clients, and also just for you authors who are starting a book, because it can be so overwhelming sometimes to think about all the things that you have in front of you and how are you possibly going to pull all this together. And there's got to be a better way, a faster way. And I am all for finding ways to do that efficiently, and there are lots of tools and ideas online that you can access for free. There's also, of course, all these books and all that. But what I want to talk about this morning is embracing inefficiency. When years ago, I used to race triathlons. And when I first got into it, I had literally like a $90 department store special bike. And it was a piece of junk. It was probably 50 pounds. It was awful. It was awful for racing. It was fine for tossing on the back of the RV and puttering around a campground with my kids who were little. But I wanted to get into triathlons, and that's what I had, and that's what I used. And I raced on that for the first year, and then the second year, I trained on that through the winter, and then before my second season, I got a fancy racing bike. And what that did for me, I was shocked because I shaved off about 7 minutes on a very short, fairly short training ride that I would do. And I was really shocked at the difference that bike made. Now, it was great because my expectations were just blown away for the races that I had because I had set these time goals. And now with this new equipment, I was able to go even faster. And that was wonderful. Same thing happened to me when I started mountain biking. I didn't know any better. I went and got a decent bike, a pretty, fairly expensive bike as bikes go, and at least in my mind. And it was a hardtail, probably steel frame, and I rode that. Now, my husband and riding partner, he had a nicer bike, full suspension, all that. And he would always be ahead of me. Also, I had not been mountain biking before. And those of you who know, it takes completely different muscles. And I would get so frustrated because he would be up ahead of me. And I would be doing my best, but having to slog that bike, that heavy bike, up the hill. But it made me really, really strong. And a couple years after that, I had the opportunity to trade up to a full suspension bike. Again, it was like riding a cloud. It was miraculous. And I was so grateful for that heavy mountain bike for a couple of reasons. First of all, it made me really strong because I had to be. And I had that draw of wanting to be up there with my husband and with my riding partners and not be the one who was always trailing in the back. So I was highly motivated to get up the hill, to challenge myself, to push my body. And it really helped me develop a lot of stamina, a lot of strength, really physically and mentally. And then when I clicked into that next phase and that better equipment, I, again, just completely blew myself away with what I was able to do once I had access to that better equipment. The flip side of that is that, so one point I want to make is that I started with where I was. When I started racing triathlons, I had that bike and I started there. And when I started riding mountain bikes, I used what I had. And because I couldn't afford to upgrade or change that situation, it really forced me to decide, do I love this sport enough and love what I'm doing enough to be slow, be the one at the back of the pack, be the one who's coughing up my lungs at the top of these hills. For triathlon, it was embarrassing to show up to races with all these fancy bikes on the rack, and then I'm putting my little $100 bike up there next to these guys. It was embarrassing, and I felt like a wannabe, but I love the sport so much, and so I did what it took to and use the equipment that I had. So as you're thinking about your business, as you're thinking about writing your book and moving forward in whatever you're doing, I just encourage you to think about the things, if you're frustrated with certain things and you feel like there's a better way out there, that you could be more efficient, and it's frustrating you or causing you stress to think of all the things that you could be doing but can't right now. I just encourage you to reframe your thinking about that and think about how great it is that the lessons you're learning now, yes, you might be really slow. Yes, you might be frustrated because other people seem to be ahead of you, but you're gaining a lot of knowledge, you're gaining a lot of strength. And just as kind of a cautionary note, and hopefully an encouragement as well, one of my training partners, in my second year of racing triathlons, she was just getting into it, and before she ever even raced her first race, she went out and bought a really expensive bike, the clipless pedals, the all the fancy gear, and spent several thousands of dollars. And then she went home, and on her very first ride around the block, she couldn't unclip from her pedals, and she had a pretty nasty crash. She quit because it is scary. Those types of low speed clipped in crashes suck. But she didn't have the confidence and the skill yet to know how to use that equipment. And when she crashed, and we all crash in every aspect of our life, we all crash. When she crashed, it was too much. And now she had this expensive bike and all this great equipment, but she couldn't use it. First, because she was banged up pretty bad. And then second, because mentally it derailed her. So there are real benefits to just taking it slow, using what you have, and not worrying about what's the most efficient or what's the best or what is going to make you look the coolest among your peers. Because eventually there's going to come a tipping point where once you do step into that next phase, the training that you put yourself through and the strength that you gained on the back end there through your inefficiency is just going to make you skyrocket. And it's not about beating those other people, but what I am telling you is that it is true that when you do those things on the back end, you will be surprised at how far you advance beyond the people who might have spent a lot of money in the beginning or had the benefit of more time on their hands or whatever to be more efficient at what they're doing. So stick with it. There does come a tipping point, and inefficiency is not a bad word. So go out there today and be inefficient. I know I'm going to be because I'm sick. All right. Have a great day, everybody.